2 years now since Hurricane Ian came through our community. And we are seeing such a variety of needs out there. People are still rebuilding. People still haven't finished repairing their homes. Some people have to tear them down, still haven't torn them down. Some people are still at the muck and gut stage. It is amazing to see the different pockets in different areas. There was absolutely devastation everywhere. And so when you stop and say 2 years, where are we at? There's been a lot of progress. Absolutely. We have people who are whole again, and we have people who are still just starting. And that's really going to take, again, all of us working together to keep moving forward on this path to recovery. In fact, just the other day, there was a veteran who, 80 years old, lives by himself, and he was able to get his home finally repaired, but he had nothing in it. He was sleeping in an air mattress on the floor at 80 years old, someone who served our country. And so his neighbor reached out to us, and we were able to get all the stuff he needed. He has a dining room table now. He has a great recliner from Mater Brothers that is just beautiful. But that's almost 2 years after the storm. So we know these things are important, and Volunteer Florida understood that. And they knew that we needed to keep this warehouse and keep these items coming in and keep them going back out to the community. And it's the same with the Red Cross. I mean, 2 years later, the Red Cross is so focused on our community's recovery, but also on their resilience. And that's important because it's not if the next storm comes, it's when the next storm comes. And we want to make sure that our residents are ready and prepared, and that we fare much better than we did with Hurricane Ian. And just because Hurricane Ian came through our community doesn't mean that the everyday problems have gone away. We have to think about things like child abuse and hunger and housing and domestic violence. Those things don't go away. So balancing the two is our primary goal right now, to make sure we're providing for our community in the blue skies and the gray skies.
So the United Way has a number of different programs that we engage with. Probably our longest engagement with the United Way is through the United Way 211 helpline. Our EMTs and paramedics have been using that helpline for more than 20 years to be able to help connect our patients that we meet in the field with essential services that they need to help them throughout their daily lives. So United Way is our key partner when it comes to volunteers and donations. After a storm impacts the community, there are so many things to do. And even though we've got a tremendous staff within county government and we've got a lot of other partners, there are some things that are just really well suited for the United Way, and volunteers and donations is one of those areas. So the United Way stands up our volunteer reception center, they manage the donation warehouses, they partner with those key, not just local, but state and national partners that are donating goods and resources into the community. They're coordinating volunteer groups coming into the community to help support the recovery efforts. There's a lot of things that are going on behind the scenes. You know, from the public's perception, they see a lot of things that are very visible within the community, like the points of distribution for water and ice. They don't see the warehouses where all of these goods are stored and categorized and distributed to people in the community that need them. They don't see the volunteer groups that are coming in and coordinating with churches and local organizations to sleep here for months at times to be able to provide those services in people's living rooms. And those are the things that are going on behind the scenes through our partnership with the United Way. It would be really difficult for us to do all of that coordination. And I think one of the things that I routinely talk about with the United Way is that it's not just the United Way, it's their network of providers that they have across the community. So while we can work with the United Way, it would be almost impossible for us to find the 100, 150, 200 nonprofits that they partner with on a daily basis. And they know the ins and outs of what they do and where they're best suited to be able to contribute to the need. So the United Way, during a disaster, for instance, they can identify these are the specific needs that we have. And oftentimes when we come up with something, they say, oh, we've got a partner for that. We know who we can reach out to. And those partners step up and they knock it out of the park every single time.
And so we were able to, through our internal efforts and then our partnership with Volunteer Florida, the Florida Department of Emergency Management and one of our largest donors, Good 360, we were able to accept a large amount of those donated goods and then allocate them out to our community partners. And so tens of millions of dollars worth of new items were able to come through that program and get into the hands of survivors. And in the beginning, it was things like cleanup buckets and tarps and just those basic essentials. And then as individuals started to go through the process of that long-term recovery, they were able to kind of shift their focus and be able to start getting things like flooring or drywall or furniture, and so throughout the whole spectrum of the Hurricane Ian impact, and we continue to this day, making sure that we are bringing in the items that are needed.
Disasters can take years to recover. I think the average person doesn't realize how long the community is recovering. One of the unique things about the role of the State Ballot is that you get to work in that process from response all the way to that long-term recovery. And a lot of people don't see that in between. And that requires us to continuously partner with those groups that are providing services, especially once the media stops talking about a disaster. It is difficult to fundraise, it is difficult to find service providers. And so we are creatively working together to identify those resources to ensure that every survivor is finding their unique path to recovery. So prior to Hurricane Ian, Volunteer Florida worked directly with Lee County Emergency Management Office to identify who would support those donation efforts should an event ever occur in Lee County. It was kind of ideally timed in that we had those conversations just a few months prior to Hurricane Ian, and Lee County identified the United Way to be that lead agency.
I think it was about 2.5 days after the storm, my phone rang, my cell phone rang, and I was surprised because none of us were getting signal. And I thought, okay, I'm answering this. I don't care who it is. My phone just does, it's ringing. So I answered the phone, and it was actually the CEO from the Long Island United Way. And so it was almost divine intervention. She called me to say she was thinking about us. She called me to share with me that they were sending $25,000 worth of gift cards down to our area because they knew what it was like, and they knew that we needed to get those into the hands of the people who needed them. And then she also shared with me that they had just finished their last home from Hurricane Sandy. Just finished. And it was 10 years later. And I think that's when the reality of what our community was facing really hit me. This wasn't a 1-year, 2-year, 5-year fix. We were going to be doing this for a very long time. And so I really think it was divine intervention that I got that call, because it gave me that long-term vision